Thank you. Thank you very much. And a wonderful afternoon to all of you. And big thank you to Tanshri, Dr. Michael, and the KSI team for having us. My name is Georg Chmiel, and I have the great honor of being the moderator for this session in the afternoon. One of the panelists will be here in present. Two will be zooming in, as we say. And my background is I'm the executive chairman of Juwai-IQI, which is an e-commerce company for property, as well as the chairman of iCar Asia, which is kind of the same for cars. And today we will explore a bit the questions of e-commerce and online businesses, and where we go from here and how can we scale it up. We heard quite a bit in the past, in previous talks about industrial revolution and how industrial revolution changed societies and also changed the progress. And COVID, as we all know, has certainly accelerated the current industrial revolution, made things a necessity which were before nice to have. And there's various studies. We heard earlier 10 years of change equal to 20,000 years of evolution. Other people are a bit more modest. They say 2 months of change which we have experienced are equal to 2 years in the past. That's from Microsoft, and Accenture said we've seen in 3 months the equivalent of 3 years change. I don't want to go too much into detail because I'm here as a moderator and I'm here to introduce the panel. So what I will do is I will quickly give you the names and the roles, and then once each of the panelists start, tell you a bit more about them. So today I will be joined by Mr. Seong. He's the National Vice President of the SME Association of Malaysia. And he's here in person, and on Zoom we have got Lee Oi Kum, Chairman of Kashtec Holdings and BBX Malaysia, and Mr. Teong Teck Lin, Managing Director and Group CEO of Chee Express Carrier Berhad. So, without further ado, let me briefly introduce you to the first speaker who will share the thoughts about the topic of e-commerce and where from here. Mr. Seong, as I said, National Vice President of the SME Association of Malaysia, and he has more than 30 years of experience in the ICT industry and has a vast experience also in the information technology, telecommunications, and venture investments industry, not only of Malaysia, but also of China and across Southeast Asia. Besides working in numerous local companies, he has worked in large companies such as IBM, Telecom Malaysia, Goso Rosso, Japan, independent director of M-Mode Berhad, a listed company on the KL Stock Exchange from 2009 to 2012. He was there as independent director, and he was non-executive director of Galassis PLC, a listed company in AIMS London. And he's very involved in regional trade bodies and is digital economy advisor to the Malaysian China Chamber of Commerce. And without further ado, I would ask him to please share his thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, George. It's very odd that I have this kind of seminar or kind of forum with the moderator. As if I know I'm going to be alone, I may not turn up. I will go through Zoom as well. But anyway, I want to accompany you. Thank you. Thank you for a good introduction. And to be expert of e-commerce, I'm not, but I'm an industrial person. We came from industry. As SME Association of Malaysia, we have close to 10,000 members with 500 direct members across the country. We have 13 branches over the 13 states in Malaysia as well. And we hope during this period, the difficult time, that we could help our members, especially the SME companies in Malaysia. We know that SMEs in Malaysia comprise of 98.5% of the total companies, and We generate the GDP of 37.1%, and with 66% of the employment rates are under SME. So it's rather important at this stage. And today we talk about digitization. We talk about e-commerce and online. How could it help our members? And this is very vital because as far as we are concerned, Malaysian companies, especially SMEs, are most trading. We are the trading nation. We sad to say that, but we have to transform. But as the trading nation, that we need to really look into how can we help our companies to export, to do cross-border e-commerce, e-trade. And there is, the government has realized that. You can see that under Penjana, or even before that, there's a lot of grant have been putting out for digital transformation. We have the 5,000 to 5,000 up to 10,000 matching grant. That was in fact before even the COVID happened. Except I want to say here that it's not enough. I hope the government can put more money over here, because for that small money, nothing much we can do. If the government can increase or double the amount, will be much better for the industry. As for myself, I would love to see we can get over this COVID-19 pandemic situation. Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. That was very, very interesting and a clear message also for the government. I wasn't aware how large SMEs are. 98.5%, representing roughly 70% of the workforce. That's pretty impressive. Next to join is Dr. Lee Oi Kum. She graduated as a medical doctor, and as an entrepreneur, she has founded and invested many businesses, and she is the chairperson of the IT company E-Commodity, a Malaysian company founded with the technology partner Teck Padu Berhad that provides the full suite of researched and developed IT solution to the government and public sectors. And she has a very, very strong interest in the Internet of Things, is a key partner in innovating a traditional barter business into a global trade business in 11 countries with 15,000 SME owners as members under the trade portal name BBX. And she's a board director of BBX Holdings. And in the fintech space, with a banking partner, is the founding board member and chairperson to develop solutions for SME. They need specific solutions. And the company is called Kashtec International and has various projects ongoing, among those in Bangladesh, China, as well as India. And besides all that, she has a strong interest in social enterprises and philanthropic endeavors. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Dr. Lee to talk to us about the SME sector and her experience in this. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Thank you for introducing me. I am based in Singapore, but I'm very much a Malaysian in every way. I can be an icon for what we call technology because I did participate in two initiatives in the multimedia super corridor, and that's 30 years ago, under the education initiative and the e-commerce initiative. To me, there's no place for retirement. So because the digital revolution is now an evolution and is part of everyone's environment, whether you are in business, consumers, families, and individuals. So my journey to this point has been more than 30 years. Today, I want to address a pain point for SME. Slide, please. So I'm going to focus on transforming working capital for SME with trade credits. Now, every SME knows that financial management is so much part of their daily sustainability. And such of cash is always like the blood flowing in the body. So SME manage cash flow by a few ways. Either they have funding, strong investors, or they borrow from bank or from their operations. But I want to point out one fact. Next slide. The SMEs, previous slide, please. Previous slide, yes. What do I mean by SMEs? How many are trapped in unmet financing needs? These SMEs send in for application for fiat money from the banks, and before these are their financial needs. Some are approved, some are not approved. And as such, until the bank approve or financial institution release these funds to them, they are huge financial deficit to manage their operation. And that difficult. And that is really a big obstacle to sustainability of their business. So if I were to quote it, the numbers you are seeing are huge. And this is a survey done. That is estimated at, no matter what currency, 4.5 trillion, and that's in US dollars. Next slide. Next slide. Yes. So on the other hand, we have what you call cash lockup in global invoices. In the buying and selling of transaction, all the buyers' payment terms are either 30 days, 60 days, you're lucky you're on cash on payment. You are not, if you are unlucky, all your payments does not come due at all. Now, this is a huge lockup of cash that is actually a vicious cycle. On one hand, the SME supply chain supplies their product and services, but they are not paid. So on one hand, they have financial needs. On another hand, they do have capital because whatever they sell and invoices is recorded in their P&L as revenue. And in their balance sheet, they have account receivable. But these are not real cash flow items. So this is why we want to focus on how do we unlock what SME needs and actually what SME has but locked up in capital from invoices that is due for payment. Next slide. Next slide, thank you. Okay, so I'm saying that the global SME community is really underserved in this sector, financing the supply chain. And there's definitely an opportunity to unlock this capital currently trapped in supply chain. Next slide. So what did we do and what should companies do? Redefine strategy and reposition their focus. So SME, besides going on the digitalization path, have to look at where is their financing coming from, whether digitally or fiat money draw down from the bank, right? So on this, looking at this unique loophole in the ecosystem of digitalization, we decided to just focus on how can we unlock this capital. And next slide. So we become what we understand that we become a platform, a fintech platform that has to fit into the ecosystem. We need to collaborate with SMEs of other platform or e-commerce platform or agencies that will push the unlocking of supply chain capital. So what is the big shift in paradigm? Is looking at this trapping of this account receivables. Can we convert invoices where the credit terms is on demand rather than 60 days, 90 days, and may not be paid. Can we use a valid rated or value rated item called trade credit or promissory note as settlements between in the invoices between trusted SMEs? The third one we talk about is then how do we enable trade credits to be redeemed in fiat money? That's the last, trusted system now. So at the end of that, with all this can be done, the financing needs of SME will be reduced, right? If you unlock their capital that is locked up in invoices, account receivable, their financing needs will be reduced. So what did we do? Next slide. Okay, what we have done in Kashtec is that if I give you an example, you have a big multinational of my brain is Coca-Cola, and Coca-Cola takes a lot of supply chain from in-country, be it bottling, marketing, labor, factory maintenance. And if they were to pay for this in credit terms on 60 days, 20 days, the supply chain will all be locked up. So what we have done is that we convinced the big corporation to work with banks so that, and also their supply chain, to accept trade credits immediately in their invoices. Trade credits can be used downline with other supply chain, or in the event they need cash, can be presented to bank to redeem their trade credits. What is the collateralization in this? This form of collateralization is by the corporate assets, as they work with the bank. The second way we are talking about unlocking the trade credit is businesses that are ongoing have capital lockup, excess inventory. How do we, if it is not the bank coming in to redeem it into fiat money, can that be redeemed through goods and services? So they can then churn their trade credits into the next supply chain down the line. Then we have, so if we have all these benefits, it's all about financing support for supply chain. And if we can enable this to happen, then definitely this is why SMEs is part and parcel. We are part and parcel. FinTech platforms can be a part and parcel of the ecosystem of this digital e-commerce we are talking about, because it's funding, cash flow, that is top of the line we call, right? Next slide. So just as an example, Kashtec has 3 platforms, and we are working with banks to work with their clientele so that banks can provide another service to their clientele supply chain. Right. This is our focus from Kashtec. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was really, really interesting, and goes to the core of SME, which means to be able to trade even if times are tough, and the numbers are staggering, that there's $5.4 trillion unlocked cash out there in invoices, or locked cash in invoices, which could very easily fund 131 million SMEs out there. Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Lee. And now we come to the last presenter on this panel, Mr. Teong Teck Lin, who holds a degree in electrical and electronics engineering from Canada. He started his career as an engineer with Texas Instruments. So he has a very, very long history and experience in the area of information technology. And he later joined Lembaga Electric Negara, where he served as a consumer engineer for 4 years, and joined the stockbroking industry and became a dealer with OSK Securities in the 90s. And during his time in the broking industry, he developed extensive contacts and the skills pertinent to managing a service-centric business, which he put to use in the year 2000 when he acquired a controlling stake in Chee Express. And he was instrumental in turning around the whole group by putting in place corporate policies, best practices, which accumulated in the listing of GDX on the MES-DAC market, currently known as ACE market on the Bursa. And Mr. Teong is also the managing director and group CEO now of GD Express Carrier, and is responsible for business development, strategic direction, and overall management of the group, as well as overseeing the operations of the entire organization. So he is the boss. And he will tell us in a second about how GDX has fared in this new digital era. So over to you. We are very happy to have you.
Thank you so much, George, for the introduction. First of all, I think most of the business today, especially with the MCO, with the COVID pandemic, we realize that a business cannot function if they are not really digital. So for what we actually think about ourselves, we are basically a tech company, happen to be logistics, so that the functions that we do as a intermediary to deliver the goods, collect the payments for a client can be fulfilled. So the pandemic have brought an obvious sort of service issues, especially when it comes to actually e-commerce. The e-commerce also have demonstrated how powerful it is, especially in the time of pandemic, whereby a lot of non-believers basically have to up their skill to buy some things online, to actually sell something online as well. And I think Malaysia is quite actually ready to take on this e-commerce challenge. And many of the sort of sellers, whether offline, whether the traditional businesses within the experience of the MCO have actually made a very strategic decisions, especially when it comes to investment on the IT infrastructure or whatever tools that they need to invest in order the business to be more sort of stable, and as well as to more resilient, so that any time the business can continue. So I think one of the example is that during the MCO, we have this digital platform whereby anybody can log into this digital platform of us to log in a delivery service. And most of the SMEs that are actually based at home, they actually can log in there. They actually can order the sort of delivery digitally, so that we can actually send our people to pick up the shipment and get it delivered. So I think many of these gaps that in the logistics during the MCO, we actually need to relook at it. And many of the businesses also have to relook at what actually need to be done to actually ensure that this e-commerce can be part of the business. So I think today, after the MCO especially, that I feel that there's no more pure B2B business model or pure online, offline business model. They have to evolve, for example, to a hybrid model where they can sell online, whether to the e-commerce platform like Lazada, Zalora, or they could actually build out their own platforms. Today, there are many tools that they can use. For example, and many of the local startups as well. We have snack shops here. We have many other startups that are actually looking at how to build sort of a website for people to actually build out e-store for people as well, so that they can sell their items through e-commerce. And actually, e-commerce is more sort of simplified, especially with a lot of these enablers, startups actually looking at e-commerce is the way to go. So I think the pandemic actually brought one decision to a lot of CEOs. If they are not looking at e-commerce, maybe they have to rethink their strategy again. So I think for us, we have to really look at the whole infrastructure that we have and how to make it resilient. There's a lot of gaps during the MCO, for example, passenger plane didn't fly. So we have to look at how to actually manage to get a cargo airplane, for example, from KL to KK or Kuching. And then from there, we have to build a road line haul to connect all the small towns so that any of the items can be delivered as well. So the sellers or buyers, they can buy through the e-commerce platform, but somebody need to deliver that. So I think on top of just the delivery, we also have to sort of build a sort of integration with a lot of other service provider, for example, the payment, the wallets, so that a lot of the buyers can pay to us via the wallets or the credit cards, because we have to collect a lot of the payments for some of our key customers, because many of these sellers are selling on COD. It means when the buyer, they will not pay you in advance, they only sort of pay when they cite the items. So this is one of the solutions that we provide, especially when it comes to a lot of sensitive or people that just starting to experience to buy, they will rather buy on COD. So, see, I mean, the e-commerce is really something that we cannot neglect anymore. The future is there. It can only be sort of much more scalable, and all type of businesses, I am seeing them shifting a lot of different strategies during the couple of months, and even now we have a lot of corporations that are talking to us how to actually relook at their supply chain to maybe have a hybrid model. Those that have a lot of stockists, they will also go to actually sell online as well and things like that. So you can say that there is a big changes, especially after the MCO. It's like the decision to go on digitization is compacted few months ahead, few years ahead for a lot of company, because some of the decisions, according to some of the customers that we have, they plan to do in 2 years' time, they actually do it now. So I think the shift is very obvious. I would say that many of the people think that Malaysia is not there, but I think the decision is being made. They have to be there. That's what I see for now. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. This was a fantastic summary, and allow me as a foreigner and a guest to this country to clearly say that Malaysia is there. So I'm originally from Germany and also have a passport from Australia. And if I compare the internet readiness, and if I compare how people think about e-commerce and so on, then the countries of Southeast Asia, and in particular Malaysia, are absolutely there. I was once fortunate to listen in a similar setup to Georg Chmiel talk, and he kind of summarized it in a way that the whole area of digitalization and the internet and so on is being looked at differently in different regions of the world. And if you think of Europe, and in particular Germany, they always look at internet with a bit of fear of an invasion of privacy, of loss of control over the life. But then at the same time, other countries, especially in Asia, look at it as an opportunity, as leapfrogging, as being able to build a platform which really pushes us forward. And I think that is the absolute right mindset and right thinking. Because, I mean, what the MCO has shown us, or the COVID time has shown us, businesses need to continue to operate, and digital allows us far more to operate in these times, because the number one priority is really to continue the business, unless you're in tourism, but to continue the business and have the payment flows, collect the outstanding debts, because many people stopped suddenly paying and used it as an excuse. It was not an easy time. Now, we've now reached the time where we can invite a few questions from the floor. And I would ask, is there anyone who wants to ask something to our panelists? Given we only have 3 panelists, we can ask everyone to briefly state something. Any questions from anyone? No? In which case, I would like maybe a brief question from my side, and that goes to all 3 of you. Do you think an SME has an easier task in looking at these challenges such as COVID or the digital transformation than a large company, despite the fact that they might not have that much capital available? What are your thoughts? Maybe we start here and then we go into the Zoom world.
If we listen to our Minister Khairi Jamaluddin this morning, he's mentioned that the digital transformation position for Malaysia is 41 out of the 137 countries, which now means we are quite way behind in terms of digital transformation. Of course, as I say again, we have 98.5% SMEs, so it is very vital for the economy, for the country, whereby most of us as SME have to relook at what we want to achieve by going digital. Right, there are many solutions in the market. And right now we have MDF working very closely with the industry to come out with various kind of technology service provider to provide various kind of solution that even as a consultant to the industry. And for that portion, I think the government realized, even the Ministry of Finance is put out a report saying that the adoption rate of SME over, not only SME, mainly SMEs are very low in terms of digital transformation. And very importantly, that we notice a lot of SME do not know what they want to do. Besides, of course, talking about putting e-marketplace, join a Lazada or Shopee or any e-commerce e-marketplace to sell their product or trade their product, that's pretty easy and most of them know what to do. The second part of it is how to promote your product, not only within Malaysia, how you're going to do a cross-border e-trade, how you want to extend your sales across to other regions, especially Southeast Asia, including Asia Pacific. You see, Malaysia has a lot of good products. I used to meet a lot of delegates from overseas, especially from different parts of China. And to them, Malaysia only durian and bird nest. But in fact, if we do a study, there are various Malaysia companies, confectionate like Julie Biscuit, Manchi. They're doing very well in China. And Malaysia has very good tidbits. And tidbits, potato chips, are selling very well in Malaysia. And there are many companies, SME, start doing that. They start to brand their product. They start to try to sell online. But they still face a lot of challenges because there's not many really agency directly helping them with this. And I think that part, I hope the various agencies such as SME Corp, MDEC, and MOF can come up with some form of what you call packages, to help them to do that. This morning also, our minister said that there is a digital transformation panel, that have been formed to help to do transformation, not only for the SMEs, for the whole country, which I think is a good thing. It's a good move. And I do hope something will come up from there. I'm also be part of the panel. Hopefully from the industrial end, we can provide our feedbacks and to help the industry to also push the government to really look into what we really need. And that's very critical at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Really, really good thoughts. Dr. Lee, what do you think? Easier or harder for SMEs?
Thank you. Thanks, George. Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think there are two different issues here. For the SMEs or the smaller ones, if they are mainly doing productions or small selling on the internet, then what the early speakers talk about is they should subscribe to a platform. Now, the issues with SMEs is what platform to subscribe. So it's very important that platform owners come together, because the more services the platform has, it's easier for the SME to move on in digital world. For example, logistics, Mr. Teong, if it's integrated into a platform, then it's easier for the SME rather than trying to go on to a digitalization path by themselves. However, you talk about the big corporates, what are their problems? Their problems basically is we are enterprise. We keep our data, right? So is the digitalization for them. They have an in-house IT team. They can buy technology. They can put in their own functional specs to enhance their business. So we are talking about different support system. But for e-commerce, for trading in Malaysia, for SME, I think the agency need to put different initiatives into an integrated platform. And it's up to the SME to sort of tick off the checkbox and say, I need this service, I'll pay for it. Rather than go to so many platforms and they still have to decide what is the trusted platform that will bring them business.
Thank you. Trust is fundamentally important in business, and to a certain extent, digital makes trust also a bit easier. What thoughts do you have, Mr. Teong? Easier or harder for SMEs?
Yeah, SME actually do have a lot of issues, but today actually there is a lot of technology available. In fact, they don't need much to spend on to build out a super platform, a super app to sell the things. For example, during the MCO, we do notice there's a lot of small SMEs selling on Facebook. In fact, a lot of them actually start to put out their own sort of videos to sell on the Facebook, and a lot of them actually are doing very well. I was quite surprised that you have sellers from a house and based in the house, example, selling 1,000 packages a day. I was almost a shock, So that actually means a lot of delivery for us as well. But the thing is that as a company, we were thinking what we can actually do to help this SME. For example, one of the things that we actually built is actually GDEC Send. It means when the customers of the SMEs got a lot more orders by actually ordering to their Facebook, and then they can actually direct the sort of the orders white sand, and that the every bill, the printing of all those is actually automated. That means they can handle hundreds of them even with ease, and they don't have to pay a cent to us for that. So I think as a seller or SMEs, they have to have
we seem to have a slight network issue, as you might have picked up by now. Oh, he's back. Go on. You were only gone for 5 seconds.
Okay, thank you. What I need is they need to actually pick out the tools to go on the e-commerce. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. Yeah. Are there any questions from the audience? Anyone? No? It's one of the most exciting and interesting topics. I mean, we're talking here about 98.5% of all the companies being represented on stage. We've got payments, which are 15 times sitting on balance sheets of companies which are 15 or 17 times bigger than the whole Malaysian economy, which can be unleashed, and 17 Malaysias could fuel a growth in SME. And we talked about logistics, how we get goods from A to B today. I think what COVID has certainly done is made us all aware, whether we order a pizza or some nasi ayam or whatever via Grab, that it's essential to have connectivity, to have these logistical processes in place and these systems available. And I honestly thank you very, very much, you panelists, as well as the audience, for our session. And we wish you a very, very nice afternoon.